to us, plus one additional year. That is, the Navy's getting their money's worth, if you like. To return a service obligation.
All right, well, certainly it will be a challenging career, and we're nearly out of time, so I'd just like to thank you very much for talking to us and congratulate those two young women who have been accepted, that's Stephanie Cannon and Cheryl Byrne, and indeed to all the other young people who've been accepted into the Australian Defence Forces. John Townsend, thank you for talking to us.
Thank you, sir.
ABC Radio, 6GN, 6CL and 6NM. Very nearly time for us to go. We have about 3/4 of a minute left before it's time to take the news. We'll be back with you tomorrow, of course, and we'll be talking finance. It's Wednesday with David Carlson, I believe. I think David will be back for the 1991 season, and I guess that should be quite interesting because things do change considerably, don't they? With all the goings on in the Gulf. We're having a little trouble here with one of our cars. We've got unauthorised noises, but hopefully we'll rise above it because very shortly we'll be taking news. ABC Radio coming to you throughout the Midwest and the Wheatbelt. It's 11 o'clock.
Southwest ABC News. An Iraqi Scud missile is reported to have fallen on the Saudi capital Riyadh, shattering windows for hundreds of meters. However, there are no confirmed reports of casualties from the latest Iraqi attack, which was launched just over an hour and a half ago. The Iraqi attacks on Saudi Arabia have prompted Telecom to relocate its people based in Riyadh. They've been moved by road to a safe area. Telecom is refusing to discuss their whereabouts, but says they're still in Saudi Arabia. Telecom spokesman Peter Thomas says a skeleton staff has been left behind in Riyadh, and he says Telecom hopes to have moved the vast majority of its people out of the danger zones in the east and central parts of the country by tonight. The UN Secretary General has asked Yugoslavia to try a new diplomatic initiative to halt fighting in the Gulf. East European correspondent Pierre Vickery reports that the Yugoslav foreign minister is to ask for direct talks with the Iraqi President Saddam Hussein.
Yugoslavia is one of the very few countries that's managed to attain good relations both with Kuwait and Iraq during the crisis in the Gulf. Its foreign minister, Mr. Budimir Lončar, played a central role in the last hectic negotiations to try and prevent war. Yugoslavia has now been asked, in its role as president of the 100-nation non-aligned movement, to deal directly with Iraqi President Saddam Hussein. The United Nations Secretary General appears to feel that the movement, of which Iraq is an important member, may be the best avenue to reactivate stalled diplomatic talks.
Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev has called leaders of the Soviet republics to an emergency meeting in Moscow to discuss the crisis in the Baltics. The decision has come after a move by the Latvian parliament to establish special self-defense units, after 4 people were earlier killed in Riga during battles involving Soviet Interior Ministry troops. President Gorbachev's special envoy to the Baltic republics, Anatoly Demasov, says he's close to imposing presidential rule over Latvia. Meanwhile, US President George Bush has appealed to the Soviet Union to resist using force.
I am increasingly concerned. We had a statement on that yesterday. I would again appeal to the Soviet Union leaders to resist using force. And we've heard the European countries speaking out on this now, and the world is very much concerned about that as well.
White House spokesman Marlin Fitzwater says the February superpower summit is still up in the air, and NATO countries are considering sanctions against the Soviet Union, but have taken no decision as yet. There's more bad news ahead for the wool industry. A wool corporation plan put to the Primary Industries Minister John Kerrin is believed to forecast a growing record stockpile and the need for tougher measures to curb supply. Alexandra Kirk reports.
With the stockpile now at 4.5 million bales, the corporation's worst scenario is believed to be 6 million bales by June the 30th. Because Mr. Cairn has ruled out lowering or abandoning the reserve price scheme, it's understood the growers' wool levy would need to be increased a further 10% to 35% of their income, and quotas set at 60% rather than 75% of last year's production. It's expected this scenario would force out many more growers who'd be unable to withstand such a big fall in income, in addition to last July's 20% cut in the floor price.
Western Australia's largest sawmiller, Bunnings, has started harvesting the state's first commercial plantation of Tasmanian blue gums at its Manjimup tree farm. During the next decade, the company's Bunnings Tree Plantation subsidiary proposes to lease 30,000 hectares of cleared agricultural land in the southwest for eucalypt production. The tree farm's plantations manager, John Sanders, says it's estimated that the project will double the state's paper pulp export industry during the next decade. He says there's also potential for locally grown blue gum timber in the sawmill industry. In the East Perth Court of Petty Sessions today, a 38-year-old Kelmscott man charged with going armed to cause terror was remanded in custody pending a psychiatric assessment. Michael Jeffrey Barham, who's also charged with possession of an unlicensed firearm, walked into Parliament House in Perth yesterday, allegedly carrying a loaded .22 rifle, and asked to see someone with authority. He wasn't required to plead and was remanded for a psychiatric examination. Barham is expected to appear in court again on March the 6th. In finance news, a resilient Australian share market hasn't been affected by overnight losses on major overseas markets. After opening lower, the All Ordinaries Index is now unchanged at 1,270, with 30 million shares worth $84 million changing hands. The price of gold was $379 US an ounce. The Aussie dollar was trading slightly lower at 78 cents US. In Perth, fine today, a fresh sea breeze by noon, a maximum of 27. It's 5 minutes past 11.
Welcome to the WACA ground. Premiership News and Bob Massey reviewing commentary. Final day of what has been an outstanding Sheffield Shield match between Western Australia and Victoria. WA, none for 20. 4 runs came off the first over, bowled by Damien Fleming. We're now watching Merv Hughes bowling the second over of the morning. And this delivery finds Valletta working him away on the offside. Squared him up. It was a good ball. Maybe the best ball of the morning so far. But Valletta in defence, pushing forward. It's a brilliant day, a forecast top of 27 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. It's a cracking pitch. Cracks have opened up even a little more. There seems to be more of them. The crack brigade, Bob Massey and Keith Slater have been out there looking at the wicket before the start of play. We'll get Bob's thoughts on that in a moment. Before we give you the details and the position of the match, we'll watch Hughes go to the wicket and bowl to Valletta, wide down the leg side. Great take by Berry. Driving away to his left and making a good stop. Well, Victoria were dismissed for 359. In Western Australia, 9 declared for 273. They trailed by 86 runs. And yesterday, when Victoria were done for 74, I think most spectators and a lot of critics thought that Western Australia had relaxed the wall in this match. Tom Moody, 7 for 43. Victoria bowled out for 160.